Hello YouTube. Hello YouTube. Today I would like to discuss famous famous final concerts by legendary famous rock bands. Please know that many of these weren't actually their final ever concerts because as they would actually reunite several years later and have their reunion tours. But however, they were final shows by their, by their full classic lineups, and they were meant to, and they were their final concerts in during their classic era. And there were also final concerts before what turned out to be a death of it. We're we're gonna be doing these, and I'm going to be doing this list in chronological order. So I'm gonna start with first off is Cream. On November 26th, 1968, Cream performed their final ever concert at the Royal Albert Hall in London, England. Cream announced that they would be disbanding at the end of 1968 as after only 2 years together. Excessive tensions between Jack Bruce and Ginger Baker were really ongoing during their short yet successful career, and had gone back during their days before the band had even formed. After Cream disbanded, did Eric Clapton had success in as a with a decades long solo career, which he still continues with to today. And Cream reunited for several one-off gigs in 2005, with four shows at the Royal Albert Hall in London, England, and 3 shows at Madison Square Garden in New York City. And during their 3 shows in late 2005 in New York City, old tensions between Jack Bruce and Ginger Baker had resumed, and Cream announced that they would not perform together and perform any more shows together. So, Jack Bruce died in October 2014, and Ginger Baker died in October 2019. Second is the Beatles. On January 30th, 1969, the Beatles played their final ever gig at the Apple Court Rooftop in London, England. Well, I mean, technically their last gig took place 2 years prior, but however, the gig was an attempt to film to get as like an attempt to get the Beatles to return to live performing with Billy Preston as their keyboardist, as a 5th member but with ongoing tensions between all the members of the band, mainly between John Lennon and Paul McCartney. The members just couldn't. The members decided against the idea and disbanded in early 1970. However, the show was a success, and much of the material was used on their final released studio album, Let It Be. the Beatles had never really fully reunited as a band. I mean, John Lennon was murdered in December 1980, and George Harrison died in November 2001. Jimi Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix played his final ever concert on September 6, 1970, at the Open Air 11 Piece Festival in Germany. The concert took place just less than 2 weeks before his death of a drug overdose, and it featured a lineup of his so-called experience, featuring Billy Cox on bass and Mitch Mitchell on drums. Bassist Billy Cox is the only surviving member of the experience today. Yeah. Jimi Hendrix played his final ever concert just less than 2 weeks before his death. The Doors. On December 12, 1970, the Doors played their final ever concert with their classic lineup, with lead vocalist Jim Morrison, who died just a few months after this show. The concert took place at the Warehouse in New Orleans, Louisiana. No. And the band's final studio album, "L.A. Woman," was released just a few months after as well, the following spring. And after Jim Morrison's death, the Doors continued as a band, as a trio, with Raymond Zarek and Robbie Krieger as co-lead vocalists, and released 2 studio albums, but neither were well received by their fans. And the Doors disbanded in early 1973. Right. And in 2002, the Doors, the surviving members of the Doors reunited with Ian Astbury of The Cult as their new lead vocalist, but although drummer John Densmore declined to participate, and the band toured as the Doors of the 21st Century, and later as Zarek Krieger. The lineup continued until Raymond Zarek died in May 2013. The band. On November 25th, 1976, the band played their final concert, known as The Last Waltz, which occurred at the Winterland Arena in San Francisco, California. The Last Waltz featured several guests joining the band, such as Bob Dylan, Eric Clapton, Neil Young, Joni Mitchell, Van Morrison, Neil Diamond, Dr. John, Paul Butterfield, Muddy Waters. There's Ronnie Hawkins, etc. The bands would reunite several years later in 1983 and toured extensively, and even continued after keyboardist Richard Manuel committed suicide in March 1986, reducing the band to a trio. And after bassist Rick Danko died in December 1999, the two surviving members of the band would not all decided to disbanded and decided they would not continue together. Lynyrd Skynyrd. On October 19th, 1977, Lynyrd Skynyrd performed their final show with their classic lineup at the Greenville Memorial Auditorium in Greenville, South Carolina. The show took place just 2 days after the release of their final 1970s era studio album, Street Survivors, and the next day, just the lead vocalist Ronnie Van Zant, co-lead guitarist Steve Gaines, and backing vocalist Cassie Gaines, Steve Gaines' older sister, all died in a plane crash during what was their biggest ever tour yet at the time. After the plane crash, the surviving members of Lynyrd Skynyrd disbanded and were disbanded for a decade, until the surviving members ultimately reunited as a band in 1987 with Ronnie Van Zant's younger brother, Johnny Van Zant, as their new lead vocalist. Original co-lead guitarist Ed King and original co-lead guitarist Ed King. Lynyrd Skynyrd still continues to tour and perform today as a fully active band. Although with several lineup changes, as basically all to this day all the members of all the classic era members today are no longer alive. Led Zeppelin. On July 7th, 1980, Led Zeppelin performed their final ever concert in Berlin, Germany. In September 1980, drummer John Bonham died of an alcohol binge after choking on his own vomit. After John Bonham's death, Led Zeppelin decided that they would not continue as a band. The 30 surviving members have reunited for occasions, most notably in December 2007 at the Ame Ertegun tribute concert at the O2 Arena in London, England, with Jason Bonham replacing his deceased father, John Bonham. Eagles. On July 31st, 1980, the Eagles performed at the Long Beach Arena in Long Beach, California. during the concert, tensions between all the band's members had gone way out of hand. The main drama, however, was between Glenn Frey and Don Felder. The, 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 and after the concert, with the band's disband, the Eagles disbanded after the concert, and worked on, and due to all this animosity, but the band's reunited in 1994 and have since continued to perform and continue to perform as an active band today. Although lead guitarist Don Felder was fired from the band in early 2001, and lead vocalist, rhythm guitarist Glenn Frey died in January 2016. The Who. On December 17th, 1982, the Who played their final concert on what was their farewell tour at the Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. That show was actually planned as their final ever concert. It's true. I mean, it was the end of an era for the Who at the time. With Keith Moon's death and Kenny Jones and the band feeling that Kenny Jones was not the same as Keith Moon. And while when the Who reunited again, the Who later reunited for an extensive 25th anniversary tour in 1989 with the and Kenny Jones was not asked to partake in the tour. The band hired Simon Phillips as their drummer, and during that tour, Pete Townsend played acoustic guitar due to his health issues. And in 1996, the Who became a fully active band again and began an extensive 2-year tour and played Quadrophenia in its entirety. And that was also the band's first tour with Zach Starkey, Ringo Starr's son, on drums. And finally, Guns N' Roses. On July 17th, 1993, Guns N' Roses played their final show with their classic lineup in Buenos Aires, Argentina. It was the band's final show on the Use Your Illusion tour, and was also the band's final show with their classic lineup, with Slash and Duff McKagan and the rest of the classic lineup. After the conclusion of the Use Your Illusion tour, tensions between Axl Rose and the rest of the band had gone way out of hand. And the rhythm guitarist Gilby Clarke, who replaced Dizzy Stradlin in late 1991, was fired from the band as Axl Rose did not want to write material with him. and found him and felt he was not a good part of the chemistry. Slash left in late 1996. Drummer Matt Sorum was fired in early 1997, and bassist Duff McKagan left later that year. And while Guns N' Roses never officially disbanded, did Axl Rose formed an entirely new lineup of the band with different musicians. In early 2016, after decades of estrangement, lead guitarist Slash and bassist Duff McKagan both returned to the band, and have been touring ever since. And hope you like my hope you like my video. Hope you rate and comment, and if you can help me with this, and do me a favor, please try, if you can, help me with the subscribe button, please. I would really appreciate it. I would really like more viewers. Would really like more, for my YouTube channel. Please. Thank you.